Hey, Tiffany, we're not ready yet.
They're not ready? Hold on, Amanda.
Yeah, that's seating.
We're already live, so if you just want to mute the mic and then get started when you're ready.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome to the January 19th meeting of the Scottsdale Airport Advisory Commission. Let's start out with a roll call, please.
Commission Chair John Barry.
Present.
Commission Vice Chair Charles McDermott on the phone.
Present.
Commissioner Corey Little.
Present.
Commissioner Larry Bernowski.
Present.
Commissioner Peter Meyer.
Present.
Commissioner Rick Milburn.
Present.
Commissioner Ken Casey.
Present.
Thank you.
Thank you. We stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And we'll start with the Aviation Director's Report, please, Gary.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the Commission. Welcome to 2022. I'm going to keep this very brief. We have a very long agenda tonight, and just want to let you know as the airport is all teed up, ready to go for the upcoming event season for Barrett-Jackson, which starts this Sunday, as well as the golf show. We'll be moving forward with any activities, and we're prepared. We've been talking with the tower folks, and they're expecting a lot of activity as well. And we're excited for it, and we're open for business. So that concludes my report, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you, Gary. Approval of the minutes, please.
I move for approval of the minutes.
Can I get a second?
Rick Milburn, second.
We get a vote?
Okay, Chair Barry.
Present.
Approved. Vice Chair McDermott.
Aye.
Commissioner Corey Little.
Aye.
Commissioner Meyer.
Aye.
And Commissioner Casey.
Aye.
Thank you. 7-0 approval.
Next, we've received 4 public comments that will be entered into our minutes and our record. And we have 2 people that wish to speak tonight. This will be for 3 minutes each. The first one's David.
Mr. Chair, we will do that right after we open up the item, because they're specific to item number 2.
Oh, I thought it was item number 1. Okay.
That's okay, no worries.
Okay, let's do item number 1 first. Discussion of possible action regarding business permit for JJS Investments.
Thank you, Chair Barry and Commissioners. So we have the 1 aeronautical business permit on the agenda tonight for ratification. JJS Investments LLC is seeking ratification of an air park aeronautical business permit to conduct hangar and shade leasing services in the air park. Their 8,000 square foot hangar and office facility is located on the southwest side of the air park near 74th Street, south of Bucyrus Road. JJS Investments has met all of the requirements for the aeronautical business permit, and they've submitted the proper documentation. Ivan Milosavljevic, I hope I got that right, is present this evening representing JJS Investments, and he can answer any questions you have about their air park application. Thank you.
Can you tell us a little bit about, Commissioner Milburn, can you tell us a little bit about your business and what your activity is there, please?
Sure. So right now we run a single company out there called Quantum Leasing LLC, and the owner of the building, John Schufelt, he owns Quantum Leasing as well, and it basically owns all of his aircraft. So we have a Citation, an old T-28 Warbird, and a Bell 505 helicopter. And the reason we are seeking this approval is so that we can lease to another friend of ours that has an aircraft as well, so that we can just utilize some more of our space since we have extra and make a little side income to maintain the property.
How much extra space do you have?
If I had to guess, it'd be roughly 1,500 square feet.
Okay, and so that would house a few airplanes?
Yeah, right now we're looking at a 182, and then we just acquired a Cub as well, which has been fun.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Larry Bruston. So it's not a, you won't be leasing with the above.
Can you turn your mic on, please?
Okay, sorry. Larry Bronowski, so you're not leasing to the public, it's within your own family, so to speak, or?
That's correct, yep.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve.
Can I get a second? Point of information. This is Pete Meyer. Do the leases allow for subleasing?
We don't have a lease with Quantum since they're on the air park. They have their own facility as part of the minimum standards. In order for them to sublease, they would have to acquire an aeronautical business permit through the city.
Okay. Thank you. We have a motion. Do I get a second?
Corey Little, second.
Get a vote?
Okay. Chair Barry?
Aye.
Vice Chair McDermott?
Aye.
Commissioner Bernowski?
Aye.
Commissioner Meyer?
Aye.
Commissioner Milburn?
Aye.
Thank you. 7-0.
Item number 2, now we'll get to the jet aviation development at Greenway Shade and Hangars. Gary, could you fill us in? I will say I have 4 public comments, 1 in the record, and 2 speakers that wish to speak after you're done.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. As many of the commissioners know, we've been receiving some comments from tenants, specifically of Jet Aviation, that currently operate out of the Greenway Shades and Hangars facility, which is just north of us. I think most of you are familiar with that. And we thought it would be appropriate to agendize an item for information to allow the opportunity to talk a little bit about the project that's forthcoming. So I'd like to call in Mr. David Best from Jet Aviation to talk a little bit about the project and what the concerns are from his tenants. And then following that, you can feel free to take your public comment and then deliberate any additional conversation or questions you may have from the commission. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission, thank you for this opportunity to apprise you of our project. Just a short introduction, why we're doing it, what we're doing, and the impact it has on both the airport and the tenants. By way of introduction, Jet Aviation has been at Scottsdale Airport since 2020. In April 2020, we started investing in the airport infrastructure. By the time we finish our final phase of development, we'll have over $50 million invested in the infrastructure of the airport and the community of Scottsdale, and we'll have created more than 40 jobs at the airport. The why we're doing this project is actually very simple. It's because our lease requires it. Within the terms of our lease, we have to develop the site at Greenway, and if we don't develop it by 2025, we have to forfeit the site and give it back to the city, who will develop it as per the airport master plan. So regardless of us developing it or it being developed elsewhere, this site will be developed. What are we doing? We're building a 30,000 square foot hangar. We're building a 13,000 two-story terminal and 225,000 square feet of ramp at this airport. It's a first of its kind facility for a large fleet operator, which we believe will enhance both the airport, but also increase landing fees, increase fuel flowage fees to the city of Scottsdale, and therefore have a positive economic impact on the airport. That's the kind of why and the what. It does have an impact. The impact is twofold, and the very positive stuff is what are we doing round about that. The public infrastructure upgrades that we're making as part of this project we are voluntarily repaving the Greenway taxi lane for use at the airport infrastructure. We also have purchased a site for $2.5 million, which will give the airport permanent easement from Greenway into the airport parking, and also eliminates quite a number of vehicle traffic from the airport itself. So we believe it has a positive safety record. At the same time, we're creating a new taxiway and a connector which will bolster the initial taxiway that's there. So again, hopefully improving the airport infrastructure at our cost and making sure that we are a good partner for the airport. The impact of this, of course, is on the tenants of Greenway. I know there's a lot of discussion about what is happening to the tenants. There are 70 tenants at the moment who fly 81 aircraft. Of the 81 aircraft, 8 of these aircraft are flying school, which we cannot accommodate in any other part of the airport. The rest of it is, there's 25 tenants who, when we served notice to the tenants on this project, were past due, so they were in arrears, having not paid for their leases. There's a further 35 tenants which have never bought a gallon of fuel, which is a condition of the leasehold which we're on. So there's a number of tenants impacted, but there's also a number of tenants that are not impacted. We have 81 tenants. We then have 8 that were the flying school. We have managed to accommodate 16 of these tenants in box hangars, and 3 tenants have asked to be let out of their leases early, so we've let them out of their leases immediately. And in order to try and work with the community and work with the airport, we only required to give the tenants 30 or 60 days notice. This project we hope to break ground in the second quarter, and it will go through to 2023. But right now we've given all of the tenants notice. We have also committed to stop charging any of the tenants from when the official notice to determine that their leases becomes due. So we are trying to work both in partnership with the airport, as a responsible tenant of the airport, but also trying to add value to the city of Scottsdale in this project.
There's one question, Mr. Best. When did you give notice to the tenants?
We gave notice in December.
In December? And when do they have to be out? Is it now or?
They will be out in a phased manner over the next 12 months.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Second quarter, second quarter.
Yes.
So
Thanks.
through 6 months.
So you moved, if I get this right, 16 of the tenants have been moved to the box hangars?
We can accommodate 16 tenants in box hangars, and we've made offers to these tenants to move into these box hangars.
Have you had takers on that?
We have indeed, yes. The box hangars will be filled.
And you've made some concession on the rents when you've done that, I
We have, yes.
Yeah, okay.
We've also been in contact with Glendale and Deer Valley to see if we can help make accommodation for these aircraft as well.
Okay. You mentioned that virtually half of the customers don't buy fuel from you. Is that correct?
Correct. And we don't know if that's because they don't fly or because they don't buy fuel, but the terms and conditions of their lease are that they should buy fuel.
Okay. What about the new tenants for the proposed hangar space? Are those going to be new aircraft to the airport, or are they existing tenants?
They're an existing large fleet operator who will increase their presence here, and they will also put in some permanent employment into the site as well.
Approximately how many airplanes are you talking about?
For that large fleet operator, they're a very large global fleet operator.
That are going to actually be here?
Yes, they are. They operate at the airport just now as one of our customers, and they will have a dedicated site with this new facility.
Okay.
So it's going to be a flagship facility for them.
Okay. All right. That answered my question there. So I'm assuming these are jet fuel customers?
Correct.
Okay. All right.
And for clarity, we continue to retail avgas as well and service these customers that are in the box hangars.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I know the slide will come up later, but the jet fuel sales is important to the airport as well as you.
Yes.
But the revenues through December or into December on jet fuel is like $320,000 to us and $11,000 in avgas. So, I mean, I can see where your emphasis might be toward the jet fuel sales. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for the investment.
you know, we're very, very pleased with this site.
A couple of questions, and just to clarify, so 81 aircraft will be correct, will be,
There's 81 aircraft currently on the Greenway site.
okay, and they were given notice in December,
Correct.
and it was at the beginning of December, can't remember,
10th of December.
10th, perfect. And then, so our understanding is the tenants currently, when they were given notice, they get free hangar rent until they're displaced in the second quarter.
They will get, when they get their official terminations, which once we start the permitting process, we'll give official termination. What we wanted to do is work with the tenants to make sure there was no surprise.
Sure.
So technically, we could have just walked in with 30-day notice and said, please leave the site.
Right.
We wanted to make sure that the people had time to find alternative accommodation and also explain what we were going to try and do to help ease through this.
Sure. So they'll get, when they get their official termination notice, then they're given an exact date, because it's going to be phased out of when the hangars are, okay.
Correct.
Which makes sense. And when you say second quarter, do we expect the second quarter will be the first tear down, if you will, or eviction of the airplanes?
It's obviously subject to planning and subject to approval, so we are ready to go with this project, and we obviously will move as expeditiously as we can, but we understand there's a permitting process which we will.
Because here, you know, we're in the middle of January beyond right now, so if we're talking second quarter notice, so if some of these tenants, has anybody got official exact termination dates yet?
Not yet. No.
Okay.
But also, just another point of clarification, we actually started off with over 90 tenants, and as tenants expired or didn't want to renew,
right,
we never refilled the spots in order to try and make sure we were lowering the impact on the tenants.
Sure. No, that makes sense. So basically, would we guess if somebody, coming up on second quarter, if they get notice, so they're probably, is it fair to say they're probably going to get 2 months of hangar rent free when they're noticed? Is that a fair?
Yeah.
Okay. I was just trying to get an idea. This is tough because obviously this is a great overall for Scottsdale Airport. There's going to be a lot more fuel pumped. It's a lot more revenue. This is a great project, but I feel for those tenants, a lot of them that have been there, we all know for a long time, that all of a sudden they get, you know, displaced, which understands it's a fact that it has to happen. If this was 5 years ago, people would be upset to get displaced. Like obviously in this new world we're in today, where now people just don't have places to go, so it brings on a whole unique, you know, challenge. So I feel for the people that are getting displaced. It's a great project, but there's an unfortunate big negative impact.
Absolutely.
So a lot of GA people out there that have got nowhere to go in this current environment. So, so thank you.
Excuse me, which commissioner was speaking there?
Commissioner Casey.
Question for you. Does your new project include any accommodations either in similar size aircraft parking and rates as well to what's in the Greenway hangars? Now, in other words, could some of the tenants that are in Greenway, is there any accommodation going to have similar size and price in the new development?
No, the new development is a dedicated facility for a single customer.
Okay.
You said 35, this is Larry Bernosky, 35 had bought no fuel. Is that from Scottsdale Airport? It's from
Jet Aviation as part of their lease to have the tie downs. They have to buy fuel from us as part of their leasehold. So the FBO rights and the fueling rights come with the landlord.
Are there other aircraft of the 81 you mentioned there? I guess there are some either haven't flown or disrepair or.
I am not aware of the details of what they do. I think the airport would probably have to comment on the specific aircraft tails, which would be an analysis.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Bonoski, because they're not our tenants, we're not sure if they're airworthy or not. They're direct customers, but maybe the FBO general manager may know, but I'm not sure.
The majority of those aircraft you fly, they're not just sitting there. In fact, one was sold, which was one that was part of the transition that was taken away. All the other aircraft that have been
This is John Berry. Mr. Best or Mr. Mosquero, could you refresh our memory? I thought that when the city, whether it was council or the aviation department, entered in this lease a few years ago, was this a requirement? They had to do something, they lost the lease? Was there a timing issue, if I remember?
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, yes. When we negotiated the deal at the time with Santa Fe Jet Center, they were very interested in taking the responsibility of the Greenway shades and hangars as well, because it was the same owner. That lease was expiring at the date that Mr. Best suggested. So what we wanted to make sure was done is some sort of performance measure to meet the needs of the master plan, if you recall.
When was that? That was a few years ago, wasn't it?
The lease was acquired, I believe, in December 2018.
18, okay, thanks.
Back to the phase project, if we start first quarter and we're expected to be done or completely, Greenway shades will be completely done by fourth quarter, is that correct?
With your permission, I'll defer to my colleague who's actually running the actual project itself.
The phase will be, the demo will start in the second quarter, and then the ramp work and the foundation work will largely be completed in 2022. The project is still in PRB review, which probably won't come back in June, then we've got to get permits. We probably won't break ground on the actual structure until late summer, and then it's a 12 to 16 month construction period from there. So the actual structure, hangar, operating is probably not until late 2023, fall 2023.
Operational, like fall of 23, okay.
The ramp portion will be fully usable.
Sure. But the actual structure of the new facility, the 30, okay. Back to my point though, on the Greenway on the current hangars as they sit, if we start evicting second quarter of this year, and we go to the fourth quarter, are they still going to be some hangars where airplanes can get in and out and be operational to the end of the year? That doesn't make sense.
No, it will be all of them. The demo will happen all of them.
Okay, so basically, would you say that most of these, the air probably operations will stop and airplanes won't be able to use those hangars by June?
Yeah, at the latest.
At the latest.
And everything.
Flow, sure.
Everything's permits and
sure.
Coming through with sometime in April, May, or June, we'll start the project and the demolition of everything packed off. It won't be a phase.
Okay, so that clears it up. Thank you. I was confused. And then so back to that, June, you'd say at the latest that they'd be done. What would you estimate the earliest time that they would be done? April. Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
And just for your notes, Danny Larson is our Vice President of Business Development and Real Estate. So that's where the knowledge comes of the actual project direction.
Any other questions for Mr. Best?
Rick Milburn, I have one question, mainly for Gary, I guess, on the master plan. Explain, that was in 2015, is that correct?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Milburn, correct. Master plan was adopted by our city council in 2015.
Okay. And in that plan, tell us about what was planned for that section of hangars.
Sure. I'll ask Sarah to pull up a graphic for you. That would be, let's do number 1 first, and then we'll do exhibit number 2. I know it's kind of hard to see from here, but that is the final master plan concept that the city council adopted. And for your information, a master plan is basically that. It's a plan. It's a guideline that evaluates an airport's aviation demand over a 20-year span. So this plan was based on information and forecasts that were created back in 2013 to evaluate the needs of the airport now and in the future. Obviously, forecasts change, and we have to remain flexible because that's normal for any plan. It's a guideline. But if you could put up exhibit number 2, which is a zoomed-in version. That is the zoomed-in version of the Greenway shades and hangars. Obviously, it's a plan, again, a guideline, but you can see that based on the forecast demand and the needs They were anticipating taking down the Greenway shades and hangars at the time frame of the interim term of the master plan, which is the 10-year mark, which is 8 to 10-year mark. That's basically when the lease was up, to develop some sort of conventional corporate executive type hangars.
And was this part we're looking at now, this was the phase 2 of the original master plan, correct? Because I think it was there was 3 phases, and this would be phase 2?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Casey, correct.
Thanks.
Any other questions from commissioners? Ms. Best, thank you.
Thank you.
Now, we have 3 people want to speak. Pardon me if I get the name wrong. David Romolo. You get 3 minutes. Sorry. You can say your name out loud for me.
David Romolo.
Sorry.
Very close. I'm glad questions came up about the master plan. I kind of wrote some notes to myself. That master plan showed 220 to 30 single engine and light twin aircraft based at Scottsdale. It was about 220 in 2012, and then over time, it went to about 230. So the question is, where are those planes supposed to be parked? Well, at the time of the master plan, we had the city hangars that had 30 airplanes. We had Greenway with 96. There's some parked in other places. We had the Delta parking, which was open air parking in front of Air Commerce Center. That's gone completely now. Of course, the city hangars are gone completely now. We also had open air parking from Greenway all the way to the end of the runway. That's all gone. So where are the 220 airplanes supposed to park? It's frustrating. I have a little old Piper Cherokee sitting in the Greenway shades, Greenway hangars. I have no place to put it. I have no place to go. So when I hear the discussion that's going on here, I find it intriguing somewhat, especially when, again, the master plan is brought up, because the open air parking was never even mentioned in the master plan. The master plan had very little to say about where light twin and single engine planes would be parked. The area there behind Greenway, those acres, were shown as potential places, just as the Greenway project is identified as a potential project. So now we go to the lease agreement that was transferred in 2018. That lease agreement called for the removal of the back 2 rows of the shades at Greenway. In that 2018 meeting at the City Council, the discussion was that the hangars will not be affected. That's what the lease agreement says. The hangars will not be affected. It only impacted the back 2 rows of the Greenway shades, which is about 20 airplanes. So, quite honestly, it's very frustrating to listen to the discussion about the master plan without consideration to the citizens of Scottsdale like me. You know, I love this airport. I bought a home in '89 near the airport so I could listen to the sound of airplanes. I know it's probably strange to do that, but I love airplanes. So what I have actually asked the City Council to do is to defer and not have any approvals for demolition or construction until the parking for all the airplanes impacted is addressed.
Okay. Sorry, David, I got to cut you off, but appreciate your comments, and I understand your frustration. I mean, I'm a pilot and a plane owner also, so, but there's just not a lot we can do about it. So thank you for your comments. So
Can't do anything about it.
we're an advisory commission, sir. We don't make the law. You know, we're volunteers. We're not here to make laws. The next speaker is Chris Wittenholler. Is that close?
Good evening. Thank you for giving me some time. My name's Chris Winterhaller. I've been based here on the Scottsdale Airfield since 2005. I have a Cirrus at Greenway Shades. I'm one of the ones that has the lease termination. Refer to the master plan. I don't want to go over things that have already been discussed, but there's 210 spots for general aviation, single engine or light twins. There's no place on the field, as most of those have been eliminated. There is no place to put a single engine airplane in the valley. You can go 200 miles from Phoenix and you can't find parking, hangars, anything. I have talked with the people from Jet Aviation. They're telling you something that's disingenuous tonight. They have no space that they are willing to rent in the hangars that were just built up here. I've checked. I asked if I could be one of those tenants. They told me they're all leased out. So that's not true. What they told you is that there's space available. The other issue is I conduct my business from my airplane. I'm a dentist. I fly between my offices in Payson. I planned on doing one in Sedona. That makes it easy. Last thing I'll say is that I have no clue why if you build another gas station, all of a sudden you're having more flowage. People don't fly around in a $65 million jet just to fill up at a new gas station in Scottsdale. Yes, I can see the increase in the traffic coming, but we already had two good FBOs. Jet Aviation's a great one. I have honored the lease agreement. I bought all my fuel from them, but we need a place to go. We're the taxpayers. We're the citizens. We're the users of the airport. I rely on my plane for my business, and appreciate you guys giving me time tonight. There'll be others that will have other things to say. Anything I can answer for any of you? So, thank you.
Oh, thanks, Doctor. The next speaker is John Phelps.
My name is John Phelps. Thank you for the opportunity to be heard here. I actually am an attorney. I represent a group of the tenants at Greenway Hangars that have received eviction notices. The group is organizing, trying to take some action to at least delay this action until such time that their aircraft can be accommodated at this airport. Despite what the board has heard this evening, the lease does not require the total demolition of Greenway Hangars. In fact, the lease that was recorded with the Maricopa County Recorder includes plans for future development of Greenway Hangars. And the plans that were included in that lease, which is public record, that every tenant at Greenway Hangars was entitled to rely on, shows the back two rows of hangars being torn down, the back two rows of tie downs being torn down, and one hangar being put in there, not the demolition of the entire facility, which is going to displace approximately 80 aircraft. Jet Aviation has suggested that maybe that number isn't real because 35 people have not purchased fuel from Jet Aviation for some period of time. I have advised these people when they've come to me that the term in Jet Aviation's contract is likely a violation of the antitrust statutes as an illegal tying arrangement, where they're saying, we'll lease you this property, but only if you buy gas from us. So those tenants may be acquiring fuel from Signature, Ross, self-serve, we don't know. Ultimately, this is part of a plan by Jet Aviation, and I understand their business, they want to make money. This is good for the city, for the additional tax revenue from the jet flowage. The city took money from the federal government. Just this last summer, we had an $11 million runway rehabilitation. When the city takes money, when the airport sponsor takes money from the federal government, there are grant assurances that must be committed to, and those stay in effect for a period of 20 years. Grant Assurance 22A, if piston-powered general aviation is driven out of this airport, which is likely to happen if this action moves forward, Grant Assurance 22A requires that the airport sponsor make the airport available as an airport for public use on reasonable terms and without unjust discrimination to all types, kinds, and classes of aeronautical activity. That includes piston-powered general aviation. And the group that I represent has requested a meeting with airport management. We have brought the same issue to the FAA or to the City Council. If we don't get that meeting, we will accept that as our good faith effort to resolve the issue, and we will move forward with the Part 16 complaint with the FAA. My best estimate of what may happen there is that the city is a corrective action plan will be put in place, and that's going to require the city to develop other land to accommodate general aviation. The only land that anyone's aware of is right next to the tower to the tune of about $36 million. That's what we are going to ask that the FAA do. I realize I'm over the time. Any questions?
No, thanks for the comments. Now, obviously, we're not aviation law experts, and this really isn't the venue, Mr. Phelps, for that discussion, but it was interesting. So, thanks for your time.
Okay.
Agenda item number 3, election of officers for the next year.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the Commission. Pursuant to the bylaws and the Scottsdale Airport Advisory Commission in accordance with Chapter 5, the Commission shall, in a regular session following the first meeting of the calendar year, to elect its members a chair and a vice chair. The term of the office shall be 1 year, and no officer shall succeed him or herself more than once, which means you can no longer be the chair of this commission in just about a minute or so. So with that, I would defer back to you, Mr. Chair, to follow through on the process of nominations and an actual vote.
Yeah, for the position of chair, I would like to nominate Charles McDermott, the current vice chair of this commission.
I second.
Anybody else want to run? Any other nominations? Then could we have a vote, Carmen?
Yes, Chair Barry for the last time. Vice Chair McDermott.
Aye.
Commissioner Little.
Aye.
Commissioner Bernowski.
Aye.
Commissioner Meyer.
Aye.
And Commissioner Milburn.
Aye.
Thank you, 7-0.
So, Mr. Vice Chair or Chair-ish or Chair ex officio, whatever they call you nowadays, because Chair McDermott is on the phone, I'm going to ask a favor of you, and if you can continue to run the meeting, or whoever the Vice Chair may be, if the person is here, which it should be, if they would be continuing to run the meeting on behalf of him. It gets a little hard to do it on the phone.
Yeah, we can do that. Let's get do I have a nomination for Vice Chair? Somebody raise your hand. I'll step forward. Peter, would you like to do it? I'll step forward. Okay. Peter Myers is nominated.
Second.
We have a vote.
Chair Barry.
Aye.
Vice Chair McDermott.
Aye.
Commissioner Little.
Aye.
Commissioner Bernowski.
Aye.
Commissioner Meyer.
Aye.
Commissioner Milburn.
Aye. Thanks, Pete.
Thank you.
Chairman Charles, would you like me to run the meeting for you since you're remote?
I would very
You
much.
want Peter to run it?
I think you could continue running it, John. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. I appreciate it, guys.
Unless Commissioner Barry, you would like to defer to our new Vice Chair, Meyer.
In the spirit of continuity, John, will you continue? Yes, I'll be happy to do the next 17 items.
Thanks, John.
Item number 4, discussion and possible action regarding bylaws. Gary, can you explain that to us?
Yes, Mr. Commissioner Barry. Again, pursuant to the bylaws, every year you have to take a look at the existing bylaws that were created per the code of Chapter 5. This is your opportunity to make any amendments to the bylaws that were provided in your packet in advance and make any adjustments. If there are no adjustments, this item just is moved forward. There's no action needed then.
Larry Bernowski, just one possible suggestion in here for consideration. we had a situation, I don't know, a couple of months ago of someone requesting a permit. They weren't here for the vote, and we decided to defer it so they come back. I would think we should consider maybe a entry to the bylaw that anyone seeking a permit or action by the board needs to be physically present, either by phone or in person, so that we can ask questions. And I don't want to get into a situation of just phoning in the vote and say, well, they weren't here, but that's okay.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Bernowski, just to clarify, you're expecting an individual who wants a ratification permit to be physically present and not over the phone?
No, it could be either way. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, just available for questions when the vote is being considered.
Okay, I'll have to defer that to the next meeting because I have to talk to the legal department about where and if we can do that. I'm not sure the bylaws is the right location. It may be a code issue, but I will certainly defer and get a response back to this commission, and we can bring it forward to whatever steps need to be made.
And as a point of clarification, would you accept the person applying or their authorized representative?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good question, Ray. Thanks, Gary. Item number 5, discussion and possible action for the annual report. Gary.
Stand by, I'm writing a note. Okay, thank you. Okay, item number 5 is included in your packet. This is an action item for you to take a look at, and this is your annual report that is required by the City Council for all boards and commissions. This report was drafted to provide any information that all the action items that you did over the last year. This is a standard format report for all boards and commissions. Tiffany Domingo from our office put this together based on a lot of activity that you did over the years. You can see what the major topics are. They always like the current attendance. And then if we implemented any subcommittees, of course you did your ethics training on an annual basis per the code, selected your officers as you just did now for this year, and reviewed the bylaws and city code. The second page gives you opportunity to make any additional recommendations or comments that you would like to include in this report. This doesn't need to happen, but it's certainly up to you. If there's anything additions you'd like to add, we can certainly add that to the report, and then we would ask you for a motion. If there's nothing you'd like to add, we still need a motion and approval for this board so we can submit it on your behalf to the City Council.
Commissioner Milburn, I'd move that we accept the annual report as presented.
Mr. Berry, second.
Okay, and this is Carmen with the vote. Chair McDermott.
Aye.
Commissioner Little.
Aye.
Commissioner Bernowski.
Aye.
Vice Chair Meyer.
Aye.
And Commissioner Casey.
Aye.
Thank you. 7-0.
Item number 6, discussion and action possibly for adoption of resolution number 12359, the lease agreement with Luna LLC. Carmen, fill us in.
Thank you. Chair McDermott and Commissioners, so item 6 is recommending adoption of a resolution authorizing a new lease agreement with 21 Luna LLC for North General Aviation Executive Box Hangar Space. Back in November, the hangar tenant in Unit A1, who had been there for almost a full year, requested to terminate his box hangar lease due to a relocation. So the city and the tenant agreed to a mutual termination agreement, which required that existing tenant to reimburse the city for the commission fees for leasing out the hangar once more. So 21 Luna LLC is looking to lease out this last available unit, A1. This lease would also require City Council approval at their February 22nd meeting. In your packet, you've got a copy of their lease agreement and the graphic showing the unit A1. And are there any questions about the lease?
So we're just to clarify, we're voting on them to approve to sublease it is what they're doing. The original lease was with them, and then they're going to sublease it.
Commissioner Casey, we terminated the agreement for the original A1, so this would be a brand new agreement. Yes,
okay.
That's correct.
No more questions? Can I have a motion?
To move, Bernowski, that we approve.
Corey Little, second.
Okay. And for the vote, Commissioner Berry? Aye. Chair McDermott?
Aye.
Vice Chair Meyer?
Aye.
Commissioner Milburn?
Aye.
And Commissioner Casey?
Aye.
Thank you, 7-0.
Thanks, Carmen. Item number 7, discussion and input regarding airport business permit additions, revocations, and cancellations. Carmen, fill us in.
Thank you very much, Chair McDermott and Commissioners. So you've got in your packets the monthly tenant list for our airport and airpark aeronautical business permit holders. The new airpark ABP from this night's ratification is shown in green on there for JJS Investments. That's the only change that we've got. Are there any questions about the tenant list?
No?
Thank you.
Item number 8, discussion and input regarding the monthly construction report from Chris Reed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. Kind of a boring report, but it'll get more exciting next month, I promise. A couple of changes since the report was written, where it says for the fencing project, which you're familiar with, waiting for project started, actually started yesterday. So we're underway. It's good. We're starting on the section up by Frank Lloyd Wright. So if you drive that route, you should see some activity up there, the fence being changed out. And on the taxiway Alpha North rehab project, we are in the design phase. Our engineers are working diligently to meet our deadlines so that we can have bids in hand by May 1st, as the FAA likes us to do. Any questions?
No, thanks, Chris. Item number 9, discussion input regarding the monthly operations report. Chris, you're up again.
Thanks again, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. You can see the based aircraft numbers this month of this year compared to last year. And then down below that, you can see the operational comparisons. One of the things I'd like to point out is how strong the IFR numbers really came back this year. IFRs we generally, show as the jet activity here at the airport. So even last year, even with the runway closed for 39 days this year, our number for IFR jet operations came back at, 21% higher than last year. And, last year was kind of odd year with COVID too, because we took a really big dip in April and May. But even if you go back and look at 2019, you compare the IFR numbers to this year's IFR numbers, we're actually up 23% over 2019, which is pretty amazing. So moving down below that, we had to show the alerts. We had 5 alerts, 3 alert 2s, and a couple alert 1s. That part will get a little bit more interesting next month too. That's a teaser. Then the incidents are shown below that, and nothing out of the ordinary there.
Mr. Reed, point of interest, I don't see any fuel spills on the list.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
I know.
That makes me happy. Okay, and then moving to enforcement actions, pretty par for the course in that section. The U.S. Customs numbers, so the revenue for the month, 109,000 some change. Total uses for the month, 191, and U.S. visits were 52, and then you can see all the nationalities of the folks that were on those 52 flights. Down below that, you can see the revenue comparison this fiscal year compared to last fiscal year. So again, as we've mentioned in the last several meetings, that Customs has really come back strong. Total uses for the month compared December of this year, or excuse me, 21 to 20, 191 compared to 168, and then for the fiscal year to date is 703 to 718. That's probably due to the runway closure. And then finally, the PPRs for the aircraft over 75,000 pounds ended up at 66 for the calendar year. So I believe that is a high also. And after that is the attachment that shows the operations numbers for the past 16 months or so. And you can see it lined out there in the chart. Obviously, the big dip in July and August are the runway closure. Any questions?
Question. I saw a notice that, I think for aircraft coming in from out of the country using the customs, they have to now apply online, or they have to fill out something online. Is that correct? When does that start?
Yes, Chair and Commissioners, we implemented that program January 3rd, where we made it a requirement that they now go to an online system and pay in advance. So it kind of saves us time and makes it more simple and easier for people coming in to use that service as well.
Has it been largely followed so far? Do you have any
If anything, it can be a little bit of a process getting everybody on board, especially with this group, because this demographic can be, we're not sure who's coming in. So we've done a lot of outreach, which I'll kind of cover in my item later too, but I think that we're really making great strides at it. It's really coming through in the last, this week, I think we've seen a lot more compliance with it.
Thank you.
Has there been any issues with this latest kerfuffle over the 5G in Scottsdale Airport, or is that in the altimeter issue?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Bernowski, no, not necessarily. I mean, the latest and greatest, it's very dynamic today, as they put a halt to implementing it as they continue to clear the aircraft fleet. They're focusing on the commercial aircraft first. We do have NOTAM'd out the 5G scenarios with the altimeters, but it's more of a weather issue than anything else. Pretty good weather here, so I'm not overly concerned. It was a hot topic on a conference last week I was at. I think it'll be okay at the end of the day, but as of right now, there's no concerns. I haven't heard anything.
Are there any radar altimeters, not?
Are there any 5G towers in close proximity to the airport?
Commissioner Lear, I'm not sure. I do not know that answer.
And one big issue with that is there were about ILS approaches, and there's no ILS approach in Scottsdale, so that shouldn't affect this much.
That's correct. We have what they call RNP approaches, which is very similar, but nobody ever flies them here. They never have.
There was a day before the Super Bowl years ago.
Next year.
Right. Multiple questions back to that on the breakdown report on that first page, Chris, if you can. Would it be possible where we show single engine and twin engine based, obviously then jet? It would sure be nice on that first page if, can we break down single engine piston, piston twin, and then turboprop single? And, because we look at this and when you see single engine, you don't know if it's a 172 or a Pilatus would be nice. And it would be nice to see if it's a King Air or a light twin. If that would be possible.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Casey, yes, I can do that.
Thank you. I think that's important to break down. And then what's I know I've heard this before, and excuse me because I forgot. What's the definition of an alert versus an incident?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Casey, an alert is something that the tower calls when an aircraft in flight is having an issue or has crashed. So alert 1 is something relatively simple. Pilots aren't really concerned about what's going on, say it may be a rough running engine or something like that. The tower does determine what's a 1 or a 2. So 2 is a little bit more serious, that could possibly lead to a crash, and then 3 is a crash that has happened.
An alert 3 would be an actual crash?
Yes.
Okay. So good, no alert 3s. Okay.
Right. For instance, a collapsed nose gear, we had one on Sunday, and a couple of weeks ago we had a Malibu that went off the runway and collapsed its nose gear and so forth. I don't know if it's an official FAA term, but it's in our letter of agreement on emergency response with the FAA. Yeah.
So an alert is something that the tower notifies the city that there's an issue, and then classify to 1, 2, or 3.
Correct. That's when they pick up the crash phone. It goes to airport ops, PD, and fire, and we stage and take care of it. Whereas incidents is typically we break ours up into aircraft-related incidents, which it may be a blown tire on the taxiway, or a non-aviation or non-aircraft related incident, which could be a slip and fall downstairs in the terminal building.
Well, that makes sense, but the one that caught my eye here was on 1217, that Cessna 172 runway deviation upon landing. To me, and again, I don't know what happened, it sounds like the airplane went off the actual runway after it landed.
Correct. Commissioner Casey, that was 172. He or she went off the runway, happened across a very small section of the rock or runway safety area, and then immediately ended up on a taxiway and taxied away.
Okay, so there was no.
Yeah, maybe caught a taxiway light, but it was so insignificant. Tower decided that it was not worthy of being called an alert.
Okay, no, I appreciate that. And my last question was, and I want to talk about this going forward because I think we're going to see more of this. My understanding is the Sunday after Thanksgiving this year, Scottsdale was on a ground hold. Now, I've never heard of Scottsdale being on a ground hold in history. Obviously, there's delays if you're going to Vegas, and there's holds for going to, if you're going to Eagle or other airports, they can hold you at this. But the entire Scottsdale airport, my understanding, was on a ground hold for a certain amount of time. And you had a call for engine start when you would call in for clearance or you called in for taxi. And we had airplanes up for an hour and a half delayed. Is that who makes the call on it when the actual Scottsdale airport goes to a ground stop like that? Is that a flow control or is that?
That's Commissioner Casey. That's FAA. So Tower. I'm not sure if it's Tower, Tracon, both. I don't know. I'd have to find out from the Tower manager.
Now, a concern going forward, it's great. We look at these numbers. Obviously, the airport is increasing. IFR traffic's increasing. It's soon to be increasing more. We all know that. When we look at a ground stop like this, obviously the Sunday after Thanksgiving is a huge travel day. Historically in Scottsdale, that hasn't been the biggest day. Our biggest weeks are coming up. Barrett-Jackson next week, I'm sure we'll have heavier traffic, and I'm sure the FBOs will know that next week. Into open and into the next 2 months, we're going to see days that'll surpass that. So I guess just looking at forward and making a comment here, I started an action, but I think that'll be starting becoming busy days. If we start going on an hour and a half, 2 hour, departure delays, that'll, obviously people don't want to sit around and wait. I know that FBOs deal with that all the time. That's going to be a problem. When you're increasing the traffic the way we increase the density of traffic, those things are going to happen. But as far as a plan to manage it, going forward, well, we haven't seen the busiest season yet of the year. We're just approaching that right now. Just more of a comment. I think that's something that needs to be, definitely looked at, and whether we're meeting with Tracon and it's how many airplanes they're taking out, how many airplanes they're letting into the system on IFR departures. I think that's something that I think looking forward that we definitely need to be ahead of, not behind, because it seems to me like all this stuff is going to increase more to this. We're not going to see less of this, if you will.
Would it make sense to put some of those comments at the end of this report, like that hour and a half ground hold?
I'm not sure. Do you want them in the minutes, or?
Well, just so it's visible. Pardon me?
Mr. Vice Chair, it is, they're talking about it, it'll be in the minutes. This is the first that I've ever heard of a ground stop. Nobody informed the airport or the administration, so you're the first human that contacted us and told us about it. So
it was the Sunday after Thanksgiving, which again, historically, that's a huge departure day. I know we could pull the data and see how many,
We've had slowdowns, but never an actual ground hold.
Yeah,
so
you had a call. You had a call for engine start, and we know for sure on that day that it was actual before engine start, which is the first time I've ever heard it in Scottsdale.
I mean, certainly, I'm concerned as the director. We want to make sure that we're open for business. That's a big thing for us.
100%. And then the big problem you have too is word gets out quick. People start getting delayed, and it hurts the airport, hurts the FBOs because you find real quick. Well, wait a minute here. Last time we were leaving Scottsdale, we got delayed 2 hours. Let's go to Deer Valley. Let's go to somewhere outlying, and that's not obviously what we're trying to do.
What I will do though is, because some individual here I know worked as part of AZBAA, and they're our tenant base for business activity, I'll contact that particular individual, have a conversation with him to see if he can poll his members to see if there's other people that had these concerns. Before I start pointing fingers at our partners at the FAA And then, I know Mr. Reed, what he'll do is have a conversation with the tower manager to see what, she's aware of. I know she wasn't here at the time, but all good points, but this is the first I've heard of it.
Okay.
Obviously, they're prepared. I can tell you from my experience being here for 12 more years, during our busy time at Barrett-Jackson, we definitely get priority over Phoenix Sky Harbor. They definitely try to move the traffic out of here. And you know what happened at Super Bowl 4 years ago, where we actually had made Sky Harbor have a ground stop between 10 and 11:30, which was a great day for me as I'm driving around with the FAA official telling them to put them on a ground stop so we can get the aircraft out of here.
Well, I'm just wondering if it was the reverse happened this time, where Sky Harbor was busy, they said Scottsdale.
It's very possible. Again, don't know. First I heard of it, so Commissioner Casey will definitely take that to heart. I'll have a conversation with our business partner. Mr. Reed will do some FAA, and we'll follow up with you at the next meeting.
All right, thanks. Now, item number 10, financial reports. Carmen?
Thank you very much. Chair McDermott and Commissioners, in your packets you have monthly financial reports for October and November 2021. In the interest of time, I'll just focus on the November report, but I can take questions from either month. In the upper right-hand corner of the report, you will see the revenue and expenses for the year to date. The approved budget for our revenues was $2.1 million, and our actuals came in at $2.9 million. It's a large variance. I'll explain more. There's a reason for that in a minute. On the expense side, our budget was $1.2 million, and the actuals came in just a little bit lower at $1.05 million. Just below is the monthly comparison. Compared to last year, our revenues look much higher than prior year. The large variance is actually not that high. It's due to an accounting issue that they've changed the method in that they treat their accounts receivables. So it's going to be corrected in probably January or February, so you'll see that variance go down quite a bit. When I factored out this adjustment, we were slightly higher over last November by about $16,000, so it's really just due to that accounting procedure that they did a little different this year. On the expenses, we were just a little higher by $47,000. A lot of that is attributed to the NBAA exhibit and setup booths, some additional fees for banking services, and landing fee commissions that we paid to our FBOs. On the left side of the financial report, you'll see the aviation fund cash balance. We are at $3.49 million as of November the 30th. And in the middle of the report is the accounts receivable aging report showing the balances for all of our city accounts as of December 6th. And Commissioner Meyer, you see we have a $35 in that 61-day. That is the group that we were talking about. The federal government always pays after the month, so we usually go for that. We have to catch them up after the month is finished. Down on the bottom half of the report are the fuel flowage stats. FBO fuel sales accounted for 72.7% of the total fuel. Avgas was at 2%, and the air park operators were at 25.3%. We are up 39% over last November, and for year to date, we're up 4.5%, which may not seem like a lot, but keep in mind our runway was shut down for about 45 days earlier this year. So it looks like we've caught up to our numbers for last year, even having a runway closure. So very good stats for us. And that concludes the report. Any questions about November or October or November report?
No, thanks, Carmen. Number 11, Sarah, give us the quarterly noise complaint summary, our favorite thing to listen to each month.
Thank you, Chair and Commissioners. It's time for our quarterly report. So this report will cover the fourth quarter of 2021. As you can see, we track some of our staff responses that are outside of the hotline system, and this was kind of a busy time, and usually when it starts to cool down and folks have their windows open, and it increases some of the callbacks. So we had 29 callbacks, 3 emails for a total of 32 during this quarter. And I'm going to delve into the noise report for this quarter as well. You can see from this first table, it's the total complainant summary. We had 50 new complainants, 42 repeat complainants for a total of 92 for this quarter, which is a little bit higher than it was in comparison to the same time last year. And I'm sure some of it's probably related to a lot more people at home, the good weather. There was no other trend that I can kind of pick up on for that. And the bottom table here, is the number of complainants with a comparison as well to last year. So we have, as you know, it's continuing on where we do have one complainant that is submitting a considerable amount of complaints. So we do go through the report since it does skew some of the numbers, and so you'll see that it looks like we have 9,768 complaints, but one complainant submitted over 8,800 complaints. So I say the total is reflected here on the report at 962.
And that's still ongoing?
Chair and Commissioners, correct. That is still going on here.
We even figured out if he's using a bot to do his complaints?
Chair and Commissioners, we've explored it, and it does seem likely that there is something generating so many massive number of complaints, but at this point we can't prove that, and some of them do have some unique characteristics, so at this point we're not sure if it is some
Is there some kind of secondary authentication you can put on the website so they have to enter a unique code or have to identify the pictures with buses in them or something to submit the complaint?
You know, there is, Chair and Commissioner Little, there is, you know, a CAPTCHA thing that could be implemented. So that is something that has come up. This is a system that we use not only for noise complaints, though, at the airport, but it does do all the other services. So if you have a trash complaint or any other complaint in the easements in city, we all use the same system. So, you know, we have to kind of be careful about what we're going to implement, too. But it's something that we're keeping in mind. At this point, they put in some things to help me manage the number of complaints, though, which I'm very thankful for. So you can see in comparison, if we kind of look at 2020 to 2021, 2020 had 1,446 complaints. We're at 962, so we're under what we were last year. We also take those complaints and put them on the noise complaint map by grid, so you can kind of see where they're generating. I always look for the top complainant areas, and you can see in D7, where I circled it here, that is where we get those 8,806 complaints from the complainant. So the top number is the number of complainants. This is the number of complaints. It is interesting, we did find that one complainant sometimes used a different address, so that's why they came in as a different complainant too. So I don't know that was anything that was just a direct, but you can pick an intersection, so we did see that in the report. Also, kind of trailing there was B7, and in that grid 2, there was one complainant that was responsible for a significant amount of those complaints as well, and there was another complainant with just a few. Kind of the same scenario in D8 as well. And as for the rest, it's kind of splayed pretty traditionally of what we kind of see. It's kind of status quo on what we kind of see surrounding the airport here. But with that, we also have our noise complaint history that goes back to many, many years ago, like back to 2000. We keep the running total. I'm going to kind of scroll to the bottom here so you can see the 2021 complaints. Again, we ended with 962. And, you know, we've kind of just notated the different complaints and the numbers that came in for all of those different months. So with that, that ends my report, unless there's any questions that I can answer about this.
Do you notice in past years when the high time for the open Barrett-Jackson that there's more complaints or?
Chair and Commissioners, that's a great question, because I think that for me what I see is that a lot of the residents understand those are busy times of years. Yeah. So, you know, we'll get some complaints if there's something different, but a lot of times during those specific weeks it seems to kind of go down. I feel like we get understanding from people that it is just a busy time of year during Barrett-Jackson and the Phoenix Waste Management Open. So yeah, I haven't seen any kind of real spikes at that time.
Okay, Sarah, thanks.
Thank you very much.
We're moving along quickly now. Sarah, let's tell us about your public outreach.
Back up.
Item number 12.
Thank you very much, Chair and Commissioner. So I'd like to give you just a monthly update of some of our marketing, community outreach, and pilot programs at Scottsdale Airport. Some of this actually covers some of the prior month as well, since we did not meet. The first one is on the Next Gen Phoenix Metroplex. As you know, the city manager had sent a letter on December 6th, formally requesting that the city of Scottsdale be included in the Phoenix Airspace Working Group as the new PBM procedures for Phoenix are considered. It was in progress, but now we have received word that it is delayed. So we don't have any other information right now, but it has been delayed from their prior timeline. So we'll keep you apprised of what happens there. Pilot briefing and outreach. We're conducting outreach to airport users and businesses that utilize the customs service, as we talked about earlier. So we started with, back in December, trying to notify everybody that we had on our subscription notices, putting out the word in social media as well. Mostly to our users, though, that we were implementing this new online procedure for paying airport user customs fees. So we spent a considerable amount of time doing that. Voluntary curfew, so these are for complaints that we can connect, that we receive, that happen after 10 p.m. and before 6 a.m. So for November, we sent out 21 of those letters, so it was quite a busy month in November, and then 8 in December. Planning and zoning, we keep track of all of, excuse me.
Yeah, Commissioner Milburn, question, is that number of 21, is that a little higher than normal? I mean, are we putting any bite into this recommendation of a curfew?
Chair and commissioners, we do our best to outreach it. Usually in November, we do see it increase, and I do kind of have to draw the conclusion that with the weather being nice and people are observant, people being home, it just seems that like October, November, we do experience that spike. I'm not sure what drove people at this point to maybe fly later at night, but I think people can hear it more with windows open and everything, so we kind of see that as pretty typical.
Is there repeat offenders?
Chair and commissioners, I do see a few repeat operators, yes.
Okay.
And again, there's nothing binding to any of this.
Chair and commissioners, we're not permitted to impose any sort of fines as a public airport. So most of our things go through our noise abatement program and definitely doing some proactive outreach to these operators. So we have the pilot briefings too, where we can cover a lot of that, these letters that go specifically to the operators. So we do our best with those type of tools. Let's scroll down here real quick. We monitor planning and development projects, and so for the month of November, we had 3 and 2 in December. We continue to share and post information and different things on the social media. We send out listserv notices. Our recent topics included a military aircraft video. That is huge on social media. We get so many different likes on that. So when that goes out, it's always pretty cool. So we love to share those images and videos. Jet Aviation's SBO accolade that recently happened. So we were happy to share that as well on our listserv to our subscribers. And then some fun stuff like the holiday message and the customs airport user fee process. I'm not sure if you heard, but the Schedulers and Dispatchers Convention, coordinated by NBAA in San Diego, was supposed to happen January 18th through the 20th, and now it was postponed, so it's now going to happen in early April. So we will be participating in that show, which is pretty good timing for us, too, to kind of start with some good marketing messages leading up to this busy time of year coming up for Super Bowl. So we may kind of incorporate that in. And also, boy, in a long time, it's been a while since I've been asked to do a presentation in person, but it was really nice to kind of get going again. I had a really captive 25 different residents from the Scottsdale Roundtable, and it's like we haven't seen each other in a long time, so the presentation went really well. They had a lot of good input and questions, so it was nice to do that. With that, that completes my overview, and unless there's any questions I can answer.
No, thanks, Sarah. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Item number 14, report from the Aviation Director, Gary.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the Commission. This item is to provide you any update on aviation-related items that were approved by the Planning Commission, Design Review Board, or City Council, or anything may have impacted. It's a fresh list. So if you scroll up, you'll see the item that's going to go to the City Council on 0222 of 22 for the new hangar. So we'll let you know what happens at the next meeting. And then in the next list we just wanted to focus on the items that are pretty hot and heavy at the moment. You'll see Falcon's Nest, which is a new air park facility that'll have direct access to the airport. SetJet is talking about developing a hangar out in the air park as well through Gate 1. Scottsdale Jet Center, AKA Jet Aviation, has a phase 2 that is submitted for staff approval. That is a hangar that we showed you a while ago that is on the south end of the airport. It's part of their lease agreement, as well as Project Cactus, which is their facility as well, that has been submitted to the Development Review Board as well. No dates yet as scheduled. I'll be happy to answer any questions if you have any. Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the Commission. As always, we provide you a copy of the schedule. I'd like to make a request for this Commission to see for the month of February if we can make an adjustment by 1 day to 5 p.m. same time, but on actually on the 15th of February instead of the 16th of February, I believe that is.
I saw that request. That'd be on Tuesday night, gentlemen, instead of Wednesday night.
We're trying to help Volante, who has now leased this facility. They have a very large event with a university that they really wanted to focus on Wednesday, and we want to try to support their business. So if you're willing to do so with action, if we can make that one-time adjustment to move it to now Tuesday instead of the Wednesday in February.
That's fine with me. Do we need a vote for that?
Yes, sir.
I move we move it to Tuesday at 5 o'clock.
Okay, this is Carmen with the vote. Chair McDermott?
Aye.
Commissioner Little?
Aye.
Vice Chair Meyer?
Aye.
Commissioner Milburn?
Aye.
And Commissioner Casey?
Aye.
Thank you. 7-0.
Thank you. I don't believe public comment.
Any future agenda items, Gary? Commissioners? Anybody have anything for next month? Then we are adjourned. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Goodbye.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
everyone. Bye-bye, Chair McDermott.
Hi, this is Babette.
Hi, Babette. Can you call me?
Yeah, that would probably be best.
Okay.
What's
480
Uh-huh.
312
Uh-huh.
8484.
Perfect. I'll call you. You want me to call you now or wait till tomorrow?
You
It's
can
up
call
to
me.
you.
Tomorrow's good because I'll have Carmen's list tomorrow.
Tomorrow? All right.
Yeah,
I'll call you.
all right.
I'll call you your time in the morning around 8-ish.
Yep, that's fine. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Reed. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Tiffany, you're all set?
Yep, we're going to end the meeting now. Thank you, Ryan. Have a good
All right,
night.
I'll see you next time.